Hey pal, it's me again. I hope you're doing well. 2024 has ended and it was a pretty good year for me, and I hope it was a good year for you too. This past year was good to me in a lot of ways, in small part due to all the music that I got to listen to from artists that I love that dropped this year or new artists that I discovered. And in this video, I want to talk about a few of my favorite records that dropped this past year. So here are my top 10 favorite albums from 2024. Number 10, I have Wylod by No Worries. No Worries is the collaborative duo of Anderson .Paak and Knxwledge, who have curated a perfect sound of lo-fi sampled hip-hop and old school R&B. This is their second album as a duo, and I was a huge fan of their first album, Yes Lawd, which came out in 2016. That is probably one of, if not my most listened to albums of all time, so I was super excited that we got to hear another one from them this past year. This album carries a lot of the same vibe from their first album, but instead of like a 70s influence, I feel like there's more of a 90s R&B influence on this new album. There's also quite a bit of features on this album, whereas the previous album had none. I think some of the features really fit well and helped out the song, and others not so much, which is why I have it at number 10. At number 9, I have Where Do Butterflies Go in the Rain by Raveena. I think this album is an improvement on her last, as this one feels a bit more concise than her previous album. And that's what you want to see from an artist, right? Growth. This album was like the perfect summer album to me, perfectly combining R&B with indie pop. This album just made me want to drive in a convertible with the top down. Number 8, I have Memoirs in Armor by Navy Blue. Over the last 5 years or so, I have opened up my music palette to different genres more and more each year, and as a result of that, I have listened to hip hop and rap less and less. But one artist I always come back to, and who perhaps has become my favorite rapper now, is Navy Blue. I first heard of him as a feature on Earl Sweatshirt's Some Rap Songs album, but didn't listen to his solo work until a few years ago. Memoirs in Armor is a lot like his other projects, combining sensational delivery and flows with a wide range of beautiful instrumentals. Not only that, I can really relate to the subject matter. I feel like so much of hip hop music is centered around materialism, talking about how much money they have, how many cars, chains, watches, etc. Navy Blue is a lot more introspective on his songs, talking about his struggles, his feelings, trauma, addictions, and personal growth. It sounds like he's actively trying to become the best version of himself, and that's something I can definitely relate to. Also, a lot of his flows feel almost more like poetry or spoken word, but combined with his beat selection, makes for some of the best hip hop songs in my opinion. Number 7, I have Love Seat by Still Woozy. When I think of indie pop, I think of Still Woozy. I don't think there's anyone in the indie pop scene that has more addictive melodies or more developed instrumentation than Still Woozy. If there is, please let me know. This album was another home run for Still Woozy with a bunch of new indie pop bangers from beginning to end. If you're looking to get into indie pop, this is a great album to start with. Number 6, I have Amama by Crumb. Crumb is one of my favorite bands, and they have been ever since their 2019 release, Jinx. One of the most rewarding things you can experience as a music fan is watching one of your favorite artists or bands grow and expand on their sound, then experiment with new things. This album definitely does that for Crumb. They're best known for their cold, psychedelic indie rock sound, and that still comes through on this new record, but they turn up the tempo on a lot of their songs to give it more of a fast-paced feel, which makes it feel a little bit closer to D&B or even hints of breakcore. Definitely a huge fan of this album, and I can't wait to see what's next for them. Number 5, I have Orion by Orion Sun. I'm actually not a huge fan of R&B, so I don't listen to a ton of it, but Orion is still one of my favorite R&B artists. Again, I am super sensitive to the instrumental choices in songs, so you already know that Orion Sun delivers on that. Vocals are also very lovely. You can tell that she sings with her eyes closed because there's a lot of passion in her recordings. So many bangers on this album. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a new spin on R&B. Number 4, I have Submarine by The Marias. The Marias is my favorite band, and I've been listening to them since like 2018, 2019, so you can imagine my excitement when we were blessed with another album from them this past year. They have absolutely mastered the chill, lounge, indie rock, R&B sound they've curated over the years. It's also nice to see them finally starting to get the recognition that they deserve. Another super rewarding experience as a music fan is finding an underground artist or band and slowly watching them grow in popularity over the years. Definitely recommend this album. Number 3, I have Shirt by Porches. Porches is an artist that I discovered this year from Toro y Moi's release, Whole Earth. They're featured on a track off that album. I liked their sound so much, I went to their artist page and noticed that they had released an album just a few weeks before Whole Earth came out. After a few playthroughs, I fell in love with the heavily auto-tuned vocals over stripped back indie rock instrumentals. The combination makes for some really catchy melodies. I feel like I enjoy some of the albums I had mentioned previously a bit more than this one, but I've definitely listened to this album a lot more, so I have to put it here at number 3. Number 2, I have Peace You Idiot by Lucille. Lucille is another artist that I discovered this past year. I first found out about them on TikTok just a couple months ago and was hooked ever since. This is an independent artist who, along with artists like Bunny, Lifeless, and Zen the Ghoul, have created this sound of upbeat punk rock with hip-hop influenced vocals that I have been addicted to throughout the latter part of this year. I will give a quick trigger warning if you want to listen to this album, however. The subject matter is pretty dark, violent, and graphic. There are lyrics about self-harm and harming others, which obviously I don't condone. So if you're in a bad headspace, then I would genuinely avoid this. But if you can look past the lyrics and are just looking for a good vibe, then I would recommend this album. Before I get to my favorite album of 2024, I just want to quickly run through some honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but I still loved. Any Light by Loving, Code Deviation by Robert Glasper, Everything Matters, Everything's Fire by Lunar Vacation, Underdressed at the Symphony by Faye Webster, This Is How Tomorrow Moves by Biba Doobie, Whole Earth by Toro y Moi, and Evergreen by Soccer Mommy. And my number 1 album of 2024 is Charm by Clairo. This album, man, there's so much I could say about this album. This is easily Clairo's best project, and you can really tell that she knew exactly what she wanted to do on this record. This is one of those albums that rarely comes around where if you were to ask 10 people what their favorite song is, you'll get 10 different answers. Hell, my answer could be different depending on the day of the week you ask me. Each song is just so good, but it's still really cohesive as a whole album. I could go on and on about each of these albums I listed, but I think I'm going to end it there. What do you think of my top 10? Hopefully some of your favorites are on this list, and hopefully you found some new artists that you could check out. I would love to know your top 10 albums of 2024, so please let me know your list in the comments below. If you made it this far, please give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. It helps out my small channel so much. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video, because I'm going to be posting a lot more in 2025. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.